Really, I will double check that I actually can see this in places that it should be showing up. Promise we're going to get started here in just 1 second. All right, sweet. I see a couple people already have started joining us and that the notification alert has started popping up on everyone's end. So hopefully some folks will continue to tune into our broadcast this morning. I want to maximize the window that I have with Justin today. I know they are continuing to do some great things at 911 driving school here in Westminster. So before we jump right into it, I do want to welcome you all to our broadcast. If it is your very first time joining us, then I want to thank you for tuning in and encourage you to not only like our page on Facebook and follow it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. That ensures that you get alerted when we post content or when we go live in the future. And if you are a returning viewer with us, like I'm seeing a few of you that are on here, then you already know the drill. Make sure that you hit the share button on this video so others in your network can also see that we're live, can maybe join us at their convenience, because these videos are available to you at any point in time to rewind, rewatch, and replay. They're available in the video section here on Facebook and in the video section on our YouTube platform. And a couple ways that you can engage with us outside of reacting to the video, where we can see who's watching in real time with us, is by commenting. If you comment, we are able to pull the comment on our screen, be able to recognize that. And of course, we enjoy those leaders that take that initiative and do that first and foremost, so that others can feel as welcome in joining in. This is supposed to be super interactive. We don't like the boring stuffy. We want the people that are behind the business, and we want to engage with you. So we ask you, outside of just the comments, if you think of a random question that we haven't gotten to, or maybe a question for our business owner, that you type it into the chat. And once we're done peppering him with all the questions that come to my mind, I'll be able to pull those onto the chat. And so I do want to go ahead and pull up a couple of the comments that we have with us, just to recognize that I see you guys on here. So thank you for tuning in. We have Parker Brown. Good morning to you, Parker. Thank you for engaging on the broadcast with Justin and myself. And then we also have Counselor Rich Seymour. We appreciate you, Counselor, for tuning in with us. We do share that remark that it is a great local business as well. So we are very excited to share them with the community and the public. And with that, I do want to go ahead and share my excitement for our network welcome. Today's broadcast, as every Wednesday, is geared toward welcoming some of our newer partners to you all in the business, outside of the business community. So these are businesses that are either in or around Westminster. They have an interest in investing and moving the community forward and in investing them themselves. So they've chose to kind of partner with the chamber to be that catalyst for them. And I'm so very excited to have Justin on here with me from 911 Driving School.
Oh yeah, Juliet, thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while. A lot of things going on here, and want to do whatever I can to get more involved into the community with it.
Yes, and to get the word out about it. We do so much in our own businesses that we want that excitement to be heard in the overall community. And before I really jump into 911 driving, I want to ask you, Justin, to just tell me a little bit about yourself. Is Westminster home for you? Were you a recent move to our area, or how long have you been in our community?
Well, Westminster's pretty much always been home since I was 6. I'm originally from Texas. I'm a Fort Worth boy, but moved up here, lived with my grandparents when I was 6 years old, and it's pretty much been home since.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I did have a time where I left and I went to high school in Missouri to military school, and then I was in the military, and I had a career in law enforcement, and I've always kind of started and owned some businesses here in Westminster. It's just always been where I lived. So I'm a ranch kid. So I'm one of the kids that grew up in the Ranch Country Club in the 80s and 90s. So Westminster's definitely always been home.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about that, your past service in law enforcement, and just your excitement for starting up businesses. And 911 driving is not the only business that you have here in Westminster, correct?
That's correct. I also own the Bad Hatchet, the axe throwing saloon at 92nd in Sheridan.
Absolutely. And that has been, I want to say it's been almost 2 years now that you've had that.
Yeah, we're going on our third full year of
Oh
business.
my God.
And with that, we've got other locations opening up here in Colorado. We're
Yeah.
working on one in Texas. So, I mean, it's growing. So it's been a handful having both of these businesses, but they're things I'm both passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, and for those of you that don't know, the Bad Hatchet did open right around COVID or a little bit before, if I'm not mistaken. And we did have them on our broadcast and allowed you to learn more about that business. I encourage you, and what I'll do later is find the video link and include that in a chat for you to watch and learn all things about that company and see how you can take your family and kiddos and friends out to such an exciting entertainment venue. But we're here today to talk about 911 driving school. And this is a business that's been around previous to your ownership. Is that accurate, Justin?
Yeah, so the original owner of it, he opened it up just over 12 years ago. It was almost 13 years ago to the date, actually. I think it was in March of 2010.
Okay.
And he owned it for a long time. I worked here part-time as an instructor for a little bit. He knew I owned the Bad Hatchet, that I owned businesses. He never really has, but he built a great business without that past experience. And he was getting to the point where he was ready to retire, and was talking to me about, do I want to take over the school? I had a lot of good ideas I was helping him with, and so we ended up just deciding, let's make a deal. Let's let him move on with the rest of his life. He had
Yeah.
different things going on in his life, so I bought the school, and I've owned it since November of last year, physically on paper, but probably about a year before that, I was kind of running it in the shadows with him, helping really get it back on track.
Totally. And it gave you that ability to, once you forward facing did go out there and show that this is fully yours, to take ownership of that. And it was the right place, the right timing, and you seem to be the right person for it because you were full of these ideas. So very excited for that, and congrats on over a decade of that
Thank you.
location, and for nearly a 1 year that you've been able to harbor this. So I do see Lori on here. Thank you, Lori, for tuning in with us on this broadcast. We've got Justin with us sharing all things about his newer business that he has. And Justin, this is a franchise model, but do you have the latitude and flexibility to kind of customize it to our local market a little bit?
In a lot of ways, yes. I mean, it is a franchise, but it's a franchise out of Washington State, and that's where the majority of their locations are. There's a location, we're the only one in Colorado.
Okay.
There's locations in the Carolinas, one in Florida. I think there's one in Ohio or Iowa. I can't remember which one it is. I get them confused sometimes, but there are quite a few locations around the country. But one of the nice things is since we're the only ones in Colorado, and we're so far away from Washington, the franchise is not really down our back all the time, making us do things a certain way. Colorado is a completely different state when it comes to driver education laws.
Totally.
So we have a lot of flexibility, and it's nice because someone like me doesn't really fit into a franchise model, because I'm the guy who I want to find ways to do things that are unique and
Yes.
run with them. And sometimes I have to go to the corporate and be like, hey, I want to do this, and they're like, well, and I'm like, well, we do it, and we do it because they're so far away, and it works for us here, because I prefer to build a company around what our community needs versus just everything being cookie cutter.
Absolutely, and you're right. We're boots on the ground, and Colorado does tend to do it different here, right? And when you see that and understand the culture and the dynamics of policy and things that shape that, it really does almost have to be customized for the community that it's in. And I totally see the out of the box. You don't imagine that there is even a box that's there when you're taking that entrepreneurial approach,
Right.
and it shows in a lot of the business that you're doing. One of the comments that we got from Parker was about how his daughter actually went to the driving school. So he was reiterating how you all are a great local business. She loved it so much and that they are teaching her so much. So let's tell folks that may not know about the brand or have never heard of 911 Driving School what you all actually do, what services you provide, and what programs.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, our name really says a lot of it. 911 Driving School, it's a company that only hires firefighters and police officers. Right now, all of our instructor staff, we're all retired police officers. I've got guys who have been on the job 20 to 30 years, and added that, they spent 20 years working traffic, so enforcing traffic laws, dealing with traffic accidents, stuff like that. And that business model is actually what made me want to come work here. I mean, my two older kids went through the school back in the day when they needed to get their driver's licenses. So that was my first experience. And then coming on here when I was looking to be an instructor, because I'm a driving guy. I love driving. I was a driving instructor, in law enforcement and things like that.
Mhm.
And this just made sense as the business model. I mean, you're really learning how to drive from the people who are not only trained and responsible for enforcing those driving laws, but we're the ones who also respond to the bad
Mhm.
consequences, as I say, of bad driving. When
Totally.
there's accidents, when there's, things who have, people have done road rage, and, the people who are doing the things so crazy on the road, where you're usually sitting there like, oh man, if I was a police officer and I'd be pulling them over. Those are the things that we saw on a daily basis through our entire careers. So
Mhm.
honestly, who better to learn from? We know the law better than almost any other driving school out there, because we've had to enforce it and we take tests on it all the time.
Yeah, and when you shared that factoid with me at your grand opening, I was just, it made sense, right? Like, you're like, why aren't people doing it this way? Because they're coming in with that rich experience, and it's rich experience that's real. So
Mhm.
it's not scenarios that are out of the box that haven't been done. This is stuff that they've seen on the roads and things that people can actually learn and would probably run into after getting their driver's license, unfortunately. And so, how do you navigate that from there? And I love that element, that credibility piece that your trainers bring in, those teachers bring in from their past and weave into it. It
Well, there's
looks like.
also a strong passion here too, because we have instructors that, like I said, they're retired. They're drawing their pension. They've been done with law enforcement. They went through, the ups and downs of the career, and they come to work here, and every single one of them share the same passion. They want to continue to try to make our streets safer, and we know that starting with, the kids, teaching them to do it right is a big thing. But then we have people who come in that are adults, and they come in and do training, and we want to teach them, here's the bad habits, let's get you on track to make you a safer and more efficient driver on the road. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, these are guys who do this because they're passionate about it, because they actually love still contributing and serving the
Mhm.
community.
Yeah, that is so true. And there's a difference when you wake up doing what you love doing,
Mhm.
and that shows in their instruction, their dedication to them. And I love that piece that you emphasize too, is that some people that have been driving for a while will even come back in and do
Mhm.
this because we can all use a refresher. And I'm sure, as you know, and everyone else knows, we are in traffic all the time. And one of the things that everyone has been saying over the years is, this distracted driving or just bad driving in general. I yesterday I was driving on the highway and I had to slam on my horn, for a solid few because
Right.
someone was coming into my lane. And you're just like, these smaller things that we go on autopilot, for lack of a better word, whenever we're driving. And so sometimes their awareness isn't there. Stephanie's on here with us, and she actually asked us a question sometime in between our conversation, and I wanted to pull it up on the screen for you to be able to see, Justin, and then take a moment to answer it. But Stephanie's question is asking if you offer driving tests only. Now, I know you've shared that you do the instruction component piece, but do you also do the driving tests as well?
We do driving tests. We do driving tests for anybody who's eligible to take the driver's test. In fact, during COVID, the DMV stopped doing driving tests. I understand
Mhm.
there's a few counties, mostly rural areas, that you can schedule appointments and do it with. But overall, the DMV has stopped doing the driving tests, and they've put it
Mhm.
off on us as third parties. And we actually have examiners who have to go through a lot of additional, very strict training. I mean, it's a hard regiment, one where I'm not even really looking forward to going through, but I know I should as the owner of the company. That are specifically, trained just to do the driving test. And I mean, it's about a 25 to 30-minute test, and they go through almost a year of training to be able to do that.
Wow.
But we do that for teens. We do it for adults. We even have an interlock program. So those who, have an interlock in their vehicle because of DUIs or whatever, they're ready to get their license back. We even do the testing for them. So we're one of the few that go through and do all that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for asking that question, and
Yes, thank
Justin
you.
for answering it so well. I had no idea that they were pushing it on our private partners. And it actually makes sense because especially what we saw during COVID was this slowdown on some of those services that are forward facing to the public, right? And so whether it was renewing things or going in, you were looking at, months out, and it was months out from in different counties that you don't live in to even try and get
Right.
to that particular service. So it is a lot of responsibility, right? And that's the part that you're talking about, which is you're educating, and then you're also providing that check mark of this person can be out on the road. So it
Mhm.
is a lot of responsibility that you're taking in, but I love that there is that in-depth instruction that's there. And I'll be curious to pick your brain after you've gone through it, so I can hear how that went and what all the nuances were behind it. Now, you've got a raging fan, and that's Parker, by the way, but he is helping
Yeah,
us. He is helping us guide this conversation, which is incredible.
Parker's great.
Both him and Stephanie's questions are really nice in parlaying us into some of those different
Mhm.
services and ways that we can answer their questions by you highlighting things that you're doing. But Parker mentioned that one thing that you also focus on outside of the student education is also a parent education.
Yep.
So, can we expand a little bit more about the parental education process and why you chose to take that on in your curriculum to begin with?
Well, a couple different things. There's a few different facets to that. One is in Colorado, for teenagers to be able to be eligible for their license between certain ages, they have to take a 30-hour classroom class. In fact, I've got one going on right now. I think we've got 30 something kids in there with the instructor, and you might hear them laughing every now and then because our instructors are hilarious with their stories. But nonetheless, they go through and tell them all the stuff. And they also bring in, hey, here's some things that the parents have done. Here's things like, are they steering properly? Do you see them making the, braking properly, like distance between vehicles coming to a stoplight? But where it really comes in is when the student has to do their 6 hours of behind the wheel training with one of our instructors.
Mhm.
After every single time that a student gets done with that, we ask the parents to come in and review what the student just learned on their 2-hour drive. And then we also go over with the parents, here's the things you need to be looking for. Here's things that the student wasn't doing right that they need to do right. Not only are we teaching the parent how to help teach and keep this kid on the right track with his driving, but more times than not, I have a parent like, oh, I didn't know that I was supposed to. I didn't know. I don't even do that. And we're like, yeah, once you develop bad habits and you get complacent with your driving, you forget these things. So we like to go through and help remind them. It's kind of free training to the parents, but
Yeah.
it's also helping them learn to set the right example for their kids, because it's not, most people don't drive bad intentionally.
Mhm.
You do it all day, every day. We hear
Mhm.
comments from people like, oh, I'm an excellent driver. It's like, okay, well, that's great. Let's go out there and actually do an evaluation drive and let's see how excellent you are. And they are good drivers, but there's little things they don't remember, like looking over your shoulder,
Yeah.
putting your hands at the right place on the steering wheel, how much distance to keep between you and another vehicle, when you're supposed to turn your turn signal on, 100 feet before the light based on the speed. I mean, all kinds of different things. So it really helps the parents kind of get back into being a safer driver as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we want them to set the example. I mean, kids drive with their parents a minimum of 50 hours to get their license, and they're with us for
Right.
6 hours. So we want to make sure that the parents are
Mhm.
doing things, properly as well.
Right, absolutely. And they are, kids are like sponges. And so once they
Mhm.
see something, and they, see that consistently, they think that it's okay. And as you were sharing, you have the adult portion where you're kind of reintroducing them to things or re-reminding them of things. So it is a freebie that they're getting. It's kind of a 2 for 1 when
Right.
they have the students that are in that program and they're able to pick it up. So I know I blacked out for a quick second, but I was trying to multitask. I won't do that anymore, clearly. But Stephanie, this is why I was multitasking. Stephanie's daughter actually went ahead and got her permit during COVID. So she had asked us a question early on about the test driving that you
Mhm.
do. And so one of the things that she was referencing was that now they're looking online to schedule or get a test done. And so that's why I was multitasking. I was like, oh, maybe I could pull his website and include it in here. Is there information about scheduling that portion of the service that you guys offer on your website, or how would they go about doing that?
So a lot of the information is on our website, but we intentionally don't overwhelm everybody with information on our site. We are very, very customer oriented.
Mhm.
So almost anything that you ever see us do when it comes to advertising, when it comes to social media, our website, and everything, it's our phone number is really big and bold right there. We want you to call. There's so many different things that go into driving laws. We want you to actually call and talk to our staff at the front desk and ask them questions, and they will help guide you through the entire process. And I think that's one of the things I liked most about the business when I was looking at taking it over was the
Mhm.
fact that our staff here, they're willing to answer any question and guide anybody with anything that they need. I mean, they'll go out of their way for it. And so really the best thing to do is if you ever have questions, just call our front desk staff. They'll do everything from answering your questions to scheduling your appointments to following up with you after appointments to see if you need to reschedule or add another appointment, whatever. And we do have an online portal as well where you can do a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
For the testing specifically, though, especially if they were a student of ours or not, they can do a test through us, but they need to call the front desk because that's kind of a different schedule that we offer.
Absolutely. And for ease and convenience, I figured out a way of doing this without blacking out again. And that is the phone number I dropped into the chat section for folks. I've also displayed it on the screen. This is a way that you can interface with the team at 911 Driving School. Hopefully that answers your question, Stephanie, but that it answers questions for other people that are interested in either getting more information, whether it's about the courses for your kiddos, for yourself, or for testing and some of those things that we've been referencing along the way. We also talked about that there is a website presence. I always like to throw that out there for folks if they do want to go out there and just kind of peruse it, but know that they are forward facing. And that is super important because this is a safety piece. And if they are responsive on the phone to your quick needs that you have right then you know that they'll be there for you when rubber meets the road and when you have a tough question to ask them. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for that. Now, Justin, I have been peppering you with questions. What additional things do you have, or maybe creative ideas or thoughts that you wanted to get out there for folks to know that you have going on in your business? Before we jumped in here, we were talking about how we all have so much that we're doing, and sometimes when we're doing so much, the public doesn't know about that yet.
Mhm.
So let's share some of that with people.
Oh wow, so much stuff. Yeah, I kind of came in and jumped in with both feet. For one, a big thing I want people to know is, a larger portion of our business is geared towards helping teens get their licenses, but we're full service. We have almost just as many adults on a weekly basis that come through and they'll do drive lessons with us, whether it's they've never driven before, they've never had their license. We have a large international influence. We have a lot of people who have moved to the United States that come through and do our trainings, learning how to drive in the United States and in Colorado. We do testing for adults. We have defensive driving tests and defensive driving courses like Drive Fit, where we spend a day taking people out who have their license, they've had it for a while. We go out and we work on things like parallel parking, high speed lane changes, serpentine, backing. We've got a program we're developing on trailering. People have never really had a lot of experience pulling a boat trailer, camper trailer, something like that. We're going to have a short course that we're going to do for them, teaching them weight distribution, how to properly navigate forward and reverse in boats. And a big course that we're offering and that we're going through the process and certification with the Colorado State Patrol and the MOST program is our motorcycle. We're going to start offering motorcycle safety classes, not only teaching people how to ride so they can get their license, but we're going to go through advanced riding. If you have a second person riding on the back, on your motorcycle, if you drive a three-wheel motorcycle, like you see some of the Can-Ams and things out there. And by demand, I would say by one of our instructors, he really wants us to start teaching people how to drive manual transmissions again. So
Oh,
we're actually in
okay.
the process of getting a vehicle that has manual transmission, and we're going to offer different courses, like add-on courses for teens, so they can learn how to drive manual. Adults
Mhm.
who haven't learned. So we just got a bunch of different things coming that we're working on
Yeah.
class-wise that are geared towards again teens and adults.
Totally. And I love that you don't think about how much you can impact in with your school until you start rattling off all these amazing things, right? So when you're talking about even like the aggressive driving or
Mhm.
that can be a great conduit for some of those services that are in our community addressing those particular people that are trying to enhance themselves and better themselves, and if they see that those are areas of improvement they can turn to. So you naturally feed so many issues that are in the community, or maybe ones that aren't out there quite yet, but we want to circumvent them or avoid them to begin with. I do love the manual element piece. And why I love that the most is one, it's not taught anywhere hardly anymore. And the second is I don't even know how to do it. But the third and the most important out of all this is that when you look at buying a vehicle, generally our manual ones are cheaper than our automatic.
Mhm.
And
And manuals can also be a lot safer because, I
yeah,
mean, it naturally takes away your ability to be distracted when you're driving. You can't
right.
eat, you can't play on your phone, stuff like that, because you gotta have a hand on the steering wheel, you gotta have a hand on that, on that stick
Totally.
shift. You've gotta be able to move your feet between the clutch, the brake, and the gas. So there's a lot going into it. So insurance companies, and I mean, Rich would know this a lot better than I would, but I think insurance companies may even give discounts on insurance based on manual versus
Oh, wow.
automatic because I think that they're safer vehicles to
Hmm.
drive.
Which makes sense. Yeah, you don't have as much room for distraction, and you don't have as much room for the autopilot mindset that we talked about, where you're just kind
Mhm.
of going because you've got this motor that's running. So I love some of those newer things. The motorcycle course training is also so applicable. We're in Colorado; it's beautiful roads,
Yeah.
and I've seen a number of vehicles out there. When you look at motorcycles, I've been on the back. I don't drive them, but I've been on the back, so I also know that it can be a scary experience for someone that doesn't hasn't been used to it before, or if the person hasn't had someone ride with them before. So it's nice that you're not only teaching them the being responsible for yourself, but being responsible for the person that's with you as well. I
Right.
love all that. Now, for folks that are interested and finding you outside of the digital footprint that we talked about by going to your website and things, where is your space located?
So we're in Westminster, right over by Stanley Lake High School. We're at a 100th and Wadsworth,
Yeah.
on the other side of the King Supers, and we're right next to to Rich's State Farm office as well. I mean, he's our neighbor, so we're all right there in that complex, and we're looking at maybe doing some satellite offices a little bit more east to be able to help. We have a lot of students that come from Erie, that come from Brighton. We've had people come from
Mhm.
Fort Lupton, down south in Lakewood, Arvada. I mean, we're trying to get to where our customers are, so they're not having to drive as far, to be able to get to us. But that's where we're at right now.
Well, and you're trying to make it more convenient because at
Right.
the end of the day, this is something that's so important for them. And we don't want them to continue to have those obstacles that may stop them from coming out there. And as you shared earlier, you are like the main one that's here. And so you want them to be able to be serviced by you all. For those of you that are looking for the exact location to type into either your phone, you can always type in 911 driving, but here's a direct address. We've included it in the chat for you so you can find their location. And I'm just going to give a plug if that's okay. Justin has been doing great with getting his word out that he has taken this over and is adding in so many new services and programs. He is super responsive to the needs of our community and has been adapting that in his line of work. And one thing that we do have coming up jointly together is going to be an after hours event. And it's a great opportunity if you haven't gone out to be able to see the space. So see the classrooms where they're educating the students, see where they're located, meet the team that we've talked about. We've talked about some great instructors that were former law enforcement or former enforcers. And so these are people that if you yourself or you've got kids that you're putting through it, you want to know, like, and trust the people that you're putting them in front of. And so we want to invite you out to that event. It is on April 4th. It's from 5 to 7. Here's the great thing. If you're watching this broadcast, you're not a member of ours, let us know that you want to join in. We'll add you to our SVP. There won't be a cost behind it because you are trying to be informed and wanting to learn about our business and come out to that business. We will include the information about that event in our chat section. We've got about a minute left. Justin, was there something that I didn't ask you that you're hoping to get across before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, we really talked a lot about it. I mean, I can keep going on with more and more programs we've got going on. We got, an instructor who travels nationwide and teaches people CPR, emergency first aid, and stuff like that. What he wants to start teaching the kids that we can't do it as part of our 30-hour, but he
Mhm.
wants to set up a program where kids can come in and get their certifications doing that. We're working with a homeschool academy right now, so a charter school in Northland. Next year, it looks like we're going to start teaching classes during their school year, during the school day as a period of class, the driving safety training and stuff like that. So we're really trying to plug in everywhere we can to get in front of the community and help them. And part of it is because we truly, truly believe in the program we have. And that's seen. Almost all of our customers that we have until I took over have all been referral. They've all been repeat family. And they knew another family, the kids at school that they're friends with. By Stanley Lake High School. We're at on the other side of
I think there is a little bit of, I'm trying to check if it's my connection or if it's Justin's. Oh, are you still with me, honey?
I am.
Okay. I
went
lost
blank there
you
for a
a
minute.
quick second. Yes, but that is also some great ways that you're going out in the community, partnering with charter schools, partnering on these other programs that are also inclusive of safety and well-being. And we tremendously appreciate that and all that you are doing, Justin. I want to take a second to reiterate, if you are tuned into our broadcast, make sure that you hit the share button on this video so others can learn about this great resource that's here in our community. If you are viewing it and we're no longer live, we still want to answer your questions. You can give us a hashtag replay in the comment section. That gets us to go directly to your comment or your question that you might have. You can still engage with it, and you can still, of course, stream and get all of this information. But Justin, I do want to thank you so much for fitting us into your schedule between all these programs that you're doing and offering. We appreciate you sharing more about yourself, more about these ideas that you have, and just the rich just interest in supporting our overall community and our safety.
Great. Thanks for having me, Juliet. I truly appreciate it.
Yes. Have a great day.